Welcome to Social Studies for the Child, our very first Friday lecture. This Friday we're going to be talking about what is social studies. First thing I want you to do is turn to page 7 in your notebook. This is your lecture graphic organizer. It's nothing to print out. You'll see where I've written on page 7, this is what it's going to end up looking like. And if I were you right now, I would go ahead and pause this lecture and make that look the same way in your notebook. So you can kind of preview what's going to happen. We're going to have a KWL time in the very beginning. And there's going to be a big space for you to write words and illustrate about the National Council for the Social Studies, their thoughts on what social studies is. And then just really quick, we're going to hit grades K through 5, some of the things that you'll be learning in both those classes. But again, it is on page 7 where you're going to put this, and if you want to check me, you can, because you have the table of contents in your notebook. So pause me real quick and get all that stuff down. Okay, so things that I just want to think before this class gets going is, what do we already know about just the term social studies? What are things that you're curious about knowing in social studies? And of course, you know it, at the very last Friday lecture, you are going to go back to this page 7 and you are going to tell me things that you've learned. So for just a little while, I want you to pause this and I want you to jot down notes. What are things that you know about the term social studies? It might be just your past lived experiences. Maybe some emotions that you feel about social studies. You loved it. It was boring. It was interactive. It was textbook based. Other things that you might know. What is it the study of? What do you do? Those type of things. Something that you want to know about social studies that I could answer for you, and hopefully this course will really touch on for you. And then again, at the very end of the semester, we'll go back to learned. So pause this and fill out that KWL chart at the top of your graphic organizer. So like all other subject content areas, there's a council of people who specialize and love social studies, and they kind of set the tone and set the pace of what it is that we do in social studies in grades pre-K through 5 or pre-K through 12 in the United States. So the National Council for the Social Studies labels social studies in this way, and I'm just going to read it through and I just want you to follow along. It says, the integrated study of the social sciences and humanities to promote civic competence. Within the school program, social studies provides coordinated, systematic study drawing upon such disciplines as anthropology, archaeology, economics, geography, history, law, philosophy, political science, psychology, religion, and sociology, as well as appropriate content from the humanities, mathematics, and natural sciences. The primary purpose of social studies is to help young people make informed and reasoned decisions for the public good as citizens of a culturally diverse democratic society in an interdependent world. That says a lot of things. And I know you're thinking, she said that I'm going to have to illustrate that. And there's a lot going on. So I want us to break it down just a little bit. So look at this. The first thing it says is that it's an integrated study of all of those social sciences. So it's an integrated study of anthropology, archaeology, economics, all of those. So social studies is not just maps. It is not just geography or government or history. It is integrated. The purpose of social studies is to present all of these ideas, and you can see the reason, to promote civic competence, which I know just by being an American on social media, that's something that the public is saying, hey, we want social civic competence from our children as they are growing up. And it is families' responsibilities. And just like anything in life, teachers also partner with families to make sure that this civic competence is going to happen. So it's integrated. It's all mushed together. We do not have anthropology on Mondays, and Tuesday is archaeology day, and Wednesday is economics. It is all smushed together seamlessly to promote certain ideas as children, in our case, travel through kindergarten through 5th grade. Okay? If you go down, it says the primary purpose of social studies is to help young people make informed and reasoned decisions for the public good. They are going to be citizens of they are already citizens of the United States, and they are hopefully going to vote and give their input and be key players in our culturally diverse democratic society. And so what we are doing in social studies is not, again, teaching map skills. It is not just teaching history, but it is forming that whole child, that whole person. So when they leave us, they know how to look at maybe documents or opinion articles or art, and then make an informed and reasoned decision about all the things that they see. Part of this, and I have technology on the brain because I'm just finishing up a week-long technology classes, but part of this is looking at things that they are going to see maybe on the internet, social media, even through different news sources, and we're going to talk about that later this semester, and be able to look at it with a critical eye and see if it is a valid if it's a valid news source, if it's something that they should just believe immediately, or if they should look into certain things. So what I would like for you to do right there in the middle, it said National Council for the Social Studies on your notebook, page 7. I want you to either, I want you to draw pictures. No words, because if you write words, you are just going to copy down all of those words. I want you to draw a picture. What does this vision that the National Council for the Social Studies has, that it's integrated, that it's promoting civic competence, that it's including all of this different content, this different disciplines, and the goal is for that young people can make informed and reasoned decisions for that public good. So pause me. Give me a great illustration filled with color, filled with detail, and then come back to me. So social studies itself can simply be defined learning about people in the world we've created to live in. So we are learning about all the different cultures, all the different people, and the world we've created, the world that humans has set up. So think about that. The government that we have set up, maybe the road systems, the laws, the politics, all of those ideas. So it's learning about all of that. And a lot of times our view on social studies is so small. It includes groups of people, how they live together, their needs and rules to help them survive, cultures, traditions, places that they live, how people live, how they've adjusted to environment, and how they changed their world. So all of these things is really just social studies. And again, I know I've said it within the past couple minutes, but it's so much more than maps in history. If you look at that, maps in history only covered, let's see, maybe places they live as maps. In history, let's see, could maybe go in as cultures, but everything else are things that we are trying to teach our kids. Let's back up and look at some of this history. So in 1916, the NEA, which is the National Education Association, created the idea that we wanted to have history, geography, and civics taught to our students. If you think about this time in our country, we have maybe a lot of new citizens. We have a lot of people now coming to school more regularly, and we're trying to teach them the history of our country, the geography of our country, and some of those civic-minded ideas. By 1920, social studies is formed into the curriculum. So that big group of subjects all go into social studies now. That happened 4 years after that. And then about 10 years later in 1930, they began a comprehensive approach, which means topics replaced discipline. Okay, so instead of saying in kindergarten we're going to learn about geography and in first grade we're going to learn about history, they moved that idea to this expanding communities idea. So now instead of it being just those different categories, we're moving to topics. And you can see right here that in kindergarten, we have the topic of self and others. And the whole theme of the year is that self and others in kindergarten. Remember, this is also a national association. And so no matter where you go in the country, kindergartners should be learning about some of those rules and ideas. First grade is family and school. We are pulling back a little bit. In second grade, we talk about their neighborhood, expanding that idea even more. In the third grade, we talk about community. Fourth grade, we get even bigger, state and region. And you are going to end up actually doing a fourth grade unit at the end of this semester on the state of Ohio. Fifth grade, we talk about the nation, and sixth grade, we talk about the world. Now, unless you get your fourth and fifth grade endorsement, you are never going to teach social studies to fourth and fifth graders. Sixth grade is a whole different degree program, but what we want to see is how in kindergarten they start with themselves, moving that lens back to a greater, broader idea of what is the world like as they grow and progress with their thinking. We are going to hit on this even more throughout the semester. Typically on Wednesdays, you will be in first grade or second grade or third grade. And so we are going to work our way to say, okay, what does learning about self and others in kindergarten look like? What does learning about the community in third grade look like? And so on Wednesdays, you're going to come in and half the time you're going to be kindergartners or first graders to help you experience that even more. Now, if we are looking at the history, oh, wait, I need to go back. So at the bottom of page 7, you can see that you have K1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're just little. But what I want you to do is very small, right? Self and others in kindergarten and family and school in first grade, and go throughout there, 1 through 5. We've left 6 off because no one is going to be licensed to teach 6th grade. And then I want you to draw a small illustration with color, with detail. As you are creating these illustrations, you are working some of your different learning styles, and it is helping you remember these concepts. So do that on page 7. Pause it and then come back to me. Okay, now we can talk about the National Council for the Social Studies. This council was formed in 1921, and if we hop back, you can see that in 1916, we have this idea of teaching history, geography, and civics, and then in 1920, social studies is actually formed into the curriculum, and the natural response for that was in 1921 that NCSS is formed. They're formed, and it takes them a long time to publish standards, to get everyone to agree, and to get those organized. So, you know, some like 73 odd years later, we have certain standards that are published. A couple years after that, the Common Core comes out. And you will notice that you might remember that the Common Core did not include social studies standards whatsoever. Okay, we had them originally in language arts and in math. Social studies was completely left out. And so the NCSS, their response to that was that they republished some standards, and they still did not make it into the Common Core. Social studies was not respected as it should have been, and so then in 2013, they created something called the 3C standards. And the 3C standards led a collaborative effort, and the 3Cs stand for college, career, and civic life. And it's a framework for social studies state standards, and it is really developed just to serve two different audiences. The first one was for states to upgrade their state social studies standards. And then the other one was for practitioners, that's us, so local school districts, schools, teachers, and curriculum writers. And it was made for them to strengthen their social studies programs. The main purpose of these 3C standards were to enhance the rigor of the social studies disciplines. You will notice that sometimes you go in schools and social studies is if we have leftover time in the day, or we kind of read a social studies theme book, and so that's our social studies for the day. And so what we really wanted to do was enhance that rigor. It was also, the purpose of it was also to build critical thinking, problem solving, and participatory skills to become engaged citizens. Remember, that was the whole purpose of social studies, was to create these engaged, informed citizens that would participate in our communities. And lastly, it was to align academic programs to the Common Core standards for English language arts and literacy in history social studies. So we are grasping here, trying to get the national standards to kind of take part in history because we know how important it is. So through the course of this, you should have been able to fill out your two portions of your KWL chart. You should have given me a nice illustration for the National Council for the Social Studies, and then also K1, 2, 3, 4, 5, taken some down the key topics there, and then giving me some illustrations for those. I'll come around on Monday and do a notebook check. It is part of a quiz grade, so make sure that is finished. There is nothing to turn in for this portion. There will be an SQ3R graphic organizer for you to fill out after you read Chapter 1 or while you read Chapter 1. That is paper and pencil. You can print out that SQ3R graphic organizer from Canvas, or you can pick one up from the file folder that's contained in the clear bin outside of my office door. Once you're finished with that, you're going to turn it in by sending in a picture or scanning that completed graphic organizer, and you're going to turn that into Canvas. Hope everyone has a great weekend, and I will see you all on Monday.